Under the blood-red moon, the forest of Ardenvale lay silent except for the soft rustle of leaves. Terran moved through the ancient trees with cautious grace. His senses were sharp, trained by years of living half-hidden from the world. Every snap of a twig, every distant hoot of an owl spoke to him like a conversation. Night after night he prowled these woods, neither fully man nor beast, driven by a longing he could not name. Tonight was different. A chill wind carried whispers of danger, and Terran's lupine instincts bristled with warning. He paused at a shattered stone archway, its once grand carvings worn by centuries of rain. He sensed a presence beyond, one that did not belong to the mortal realm. His amber eyes narrowed as he stepped forward into a ruined courtyard, moonlight spilling across the white marble floor. There at the center of the courtyard stood a figure draped in flowing black silk. She moved with the quiet confidence of royalty, her pale skin glowing like frost under the moon. Long ebony hair fell over her shoulders, and her eyes, deep crimson, held ancient sorrow. Terran's heart thundered in his chest. He had heard tales of vampires, creatures of both beauty and terror, yet he had thought them myths. The vampire princess, Lady Seraphine, watched him with a mixture of curiosity and caution. She raised one slender hand, the intricate silver ring on her finger catching the moonlight. "You stand at the edge of two worlds," she said softly, her voice echoing through the broken chapel walls. "Tell me, werewolf, why do you trespass in my domain?" Terran's fingers curled into claws at his sides, and his voice came low, steady. "I seek something no hunter or man can give me. Acceptance," he replied. "I have wandered these lands, hunted by fear and hatred. I am neither fully wolf nor wholly human. I belong nowhere." Seraphine studied him, her gaze piercing. "I know exile," she said. "I have ruled the vampire court for centuries, yet I am bound by laws older than any mortal king. My people fear change, even as our strength fades." She took a step closer, revealing the delicate curve of her cheek, the slow rise and fall of her breath. "Perhaps we are not so different." Terran felt a wave of relief and apprehension. To speak with a vampire was unheard of. To feel kinship with one was unthinkable. But her words carried truth. He lowered his head in a solemn bow. "If you offer mercy, I will accept it," he said. "But know this, I will fight for my freedom with all the power I possess." Seraphine inclined her head, her dark lips curving into a faint smile. "Then hear mine offer," she said. "Help me reclaim the throne stolen from my family, and I will give you sanctuary among my people. You will no longer wander in shadows." A surge of hope ignited within Terran. His heart, half wolf and half man, beat with fierce determination. He raised his head, meeting her crimson gaze. "I accept your pact," he said. "But understand this, my loyalty is earned in blood and honor. I will stand by you when dawn turns to dust." The moonlight framed their figures as they sealed their alliance, two exiles, bound by destiny, stepping forward together into a night that would change both their fates forever. ChatGPT said. Under the silver glow of the following night, Terran and Seraphine pressed on through the whispering marsh. Tall reeds brushed against their legs and murky water pooled around ancient tree roots. The air was thick with mist and the faint scent of rot. Terran's lupine senses guided them, his ears catching the soft splashes of unseen creatures. Seraphine followed close behind, her hand resting on the hilt of a slender dagger. She watched him move with awe and a growing sense of trust. As they ventured deeper, the marsh revealed its guardians. Willow-leaf wisps flickering like ghostly lanterns, tempting travelers off the safe path. Seraphine frowned. "These lights lure the unwary into quicksand," she warned. With a swift motion, she crushed one beneath her boot, extinguishing its pale flame. Terran nodded and led them around a sinking patch of mud where the water bubbled ominously. Each step felt heavier than the last, as if the very ground sought to swallow them whole. Suddenly, a chilling howl echoed from the trees and pale shapes emerged, vampire wraiths, twisted by centuries of hunger. Their ragged wings beat the air, sending droplets of water flying. Terran snarled, his muscles coiling. Seraphine's eyes flashed crimson as she raised her dagger. Together, they formed a silent pact. Terran sprang forward, claws tearing through phantom flesh, while Seraphine darted between wraiths, her blade carving arcs of light. The clash rang out like thunder, and in moments, the wraiths dissolved into mist. Breathing heavily, Terran turned to Seraphine. "We cannot rest yet," he said, his voice rough with effort. She shook her head, strands of hair clinging to her forehead. "The tears of Selene lie beyond the heartroot tree," she reminded him. "We must reach it before dawn, or our chance will vanish." The heartroot's power was said to bloom only under the first rays of sunlight. Failure meant losing their one hope to restore her queen, and losing each other. They pressed onward until moonlight faded and the marsh gave way to a glade draped in silver flowers. At its center stood the heartroot tree, ancient, its bark swirling with pale, sentient energy. From its gnarled roots dripped crystalline tears that glowed like liquid starlight. Seraphine approached reverently, but as she knelt, a low rumble shook the earth. Roots lashed out, blocking Terran's path. The tree itself had become a guardian, testing their worthiness. Terran's wolf instincts bristled. He lunged at a massive root, fangs bared. The wood twisted, evading his bite. Seraphine rose, her dagger shimmering. She pressed her palm against the tree's trunk and whispered an old incantation, her voice trembling with urgency. The runes carved in the bark began to glow, responding to her blood, royal blood intertwined with sorrow and hope. The roots stilled, unfurling like welcoming arms. Seraphine reached into a hollow in the heartroot and withdrew a single tear of Selene. Its pale light pulsed in her hand, warm against her skin. She held it out to Terran. "With this, our destinies are sealed," she said softly. Terran accepted the tear, feeling its power course through him, blending moonlight and immortal blood. In that moment, their bond transformed from pact to promise, two exiles, united by fate, standing together on the brink of dawn. Under a pale dawn sky, Terran and Seraphine traveled toward the looming spires of the Black Citadel. Mist curled around their feet as they crossed the Marsh of Whispers, the tear of Selene safely tucked within Seraphine's cloak. Each footfall echoed against broken stones, and the chill in the air carried distant echoes of battles long past. Terran's wolf heart beat with urgency, knowing that every moment brought them closer to confrontation. Seraphine rode upon Terran's broad back, her fingers brushing the silvery fur that rippled beneath her touch. Though she was a vampire princess born to command fear, in this quiet dawn her eyes softened when they met his. "We are near," she whispered, pointing to the horizon where the citadel's highest tower pierced the sky. A flash of lightning danced behind dark clouds, as if announcing their return. Terran tensed, inhaling the scent of rain and danger. As they climbed a rocky ridge, a thunderous roar split the air. Out of the shadows sprang a pack of armored hounds, creatures bred by Malchior to hunt intruders. Their eyes burned like embers, their steel collars humming with dark magic. The hounds lunged, teeth bared. Terran leaped down, knocking Seraphine safely aside. He transformed, shifting into his lupine form in a blur of fur and bone. The world narrowed to instinct. He growled low, and the first hound charged. Claws and fangs met bristling steel. Terran's powerful jaws snapped shut on enchanted metal, while Seraphine knelt behind him, her dagger slicing through a second hound's flank. Each strike they made was in perfect harmony. His raw strength, her precise skill. Sparks flew when steel rang against claw. Despite the odds, they fought as one. With a final roar, Terran banished the last hound into the shadows, and Seraphine's dagger pinned its spectral form to the rocky earth, dissolving it into ash. Breathing hard, Seraphine pressed her hand against Terran's side. "Well done," she said, her voice a soft contrast to the harsh wind. Terran shifted back to human form, muscles taut. He offered her his arm, and she leaned against him for support. "We are stronger together," he replied, his voice warm with admiration. Beyond the ridge lay a narrow bridge of stone stretching over a yawning chasm that led directly to the citadel's eastern gate. Ancient runes glowed faintly along its edges, warning trespassers of the curse that lay ahead. Seraphine's expression grew serious. "This path tests more than strength," she said. "It tests our unity." She took the tear of Selene from her cloak and held it aloft. Its light quivered like a heartbeat, illuminating the runes. As they stepped onto the bridge, the runes flared to life. Shadows surged from the chasm, forming shapes of past betrayals, phantoms of former allies who had turned on Seraphine's line. Each phantom whispered accusations, dredging up fears of betrayal and doubt. Seraphine's grip on the tear tightened, and Terran stood by her side, unwavering. With a steady voice, Seraphine spoke a vow born from their shared trials. "By my blood and your courage we claim this path." Terran echoed her vow, his voice carrying across the abyss. In that moment, the phantoms shrieked and splintered under the combined light of the tear and Terran's fierce will. The shadows collapsed, leaving the bridge silent. Together, hand in hand, they crossed the chasm. Behind them, the mists closed like a curtain. Ahead, the black citadel's gates yawned open, as if daring them to step inside. Their hearts thundered in unison, for at last the true challenge awaited within those ancient walls. Under torchlight that danced like living spirits, Terran and Seraphine slipped through the grand doors of the black citadel's ballroom. Crystal chandeliers hung from arched ceilings, casting prismatic patterns on polished marble floors. Vampires of noble blood moved among masked dancers, their laughter low and controlled. Seraphine adjusted her silver mask, the tear of Selene hidden in the folds of her gown. Terran's heart pounded, not from fear, but from the charged energy around them. Every face concealed by porcelain masks could be friend or foe. They advanced past gilded columns, where servants poured wine from goblets tipped with silver. The music rose in a lilting waltz, and Seraphine placed a gloved hand on Terran's arm. "Stay close," she whispered. "We must reach the dais where the throne stands." From there, she could command attention and distract the court long enough to perform the ritual that would awaken her mother, Queen Isolde. Terran nodded, his senses alert. He surveyed the crowd. A tall countess whose laughter hid sharp teeth, a young baron who studied him with wary eyes, a circle of elders whose cloaks brushed the floor like whispering shadows. Each step forward tested their composure. Seraphine led the way, her voice rising in melodious invitation. "My lords and ladies," she announced, her tone weaving through the music, "tonight we celebrate the return of hope to our realm." Gasps rippled across the audience. The music faltered as Seraphine ascended the marble steps. Terran followed, feeling the weight of curious gazes. From beneath her cloak, Seraphine produced the tear of Selene. Its pale light pulsed, drawing every eye. A hush fell. "With this relic," she declared, "we renew the bond between past and future." She lifted the tear high, its glow brightening the vaulted ceiling. At that moment, Terran spotted the key, an ornate iron filigree, hanging from a jeweled chain around a guard captain's neck. That key opened the crypt where Queen Isolde rested. Without hesitation, Terran slipped away, weaving between dancers. A guard blocked his path, suspicion flickering in amber eyes. Terran bowed, voice low. "Forgive my intrusion, noble sir. I seek to offer my service." The guard hesitated, but Seraphine's commanding presence from the dais held his gaze. Terran seized the moment. He snatched the key and melted back into the crowd. High above the throne, Seraphine began to chant in the old tongue, her words resonating like ripples across still water. The tear's light spread, illuminating hidden runes carved into the dais. The audience watched, transfixed. Below, Terran returned, slipping beside her just as the guard realized his loss. He crouched, pressing the key into Seraphine's palm. Their eyes met in silent triumph. With a final phrase, Seraphine pressed the tear against the dais. A pulse of light shot upward, and from the shadows behind the throne emerged Queen Isolde's carriage, a mithril sarcophagus carved with ancestral sigils. The crowd gasped as the lid creaked open. A hand, pale as moonlight, reached out. Seraphine knelt, placing the tear on the queen's chest. Terran stood behind her, his hand resting protectively on her shoulder. Slowly, Isolde's eyes opened, reflecting centuries of sorrow and power. The ballroom brimmed with renewed energy, some faces with joy, others with fear. Terran kept watch on the assembled nobles, ready to defend Seraphine's claim. Above them, the chandeliers flickered, and once again the court of vampires had a rightful queen. Between them, a werewolf outsider and his vampire princess stood united, their alliance sealed in light and blood. Under the stunned hush of the grand ballroom, Queen Isolde rose from her mithril sarcophagus. Her eyes, once lifeless, now burned with renewed power. She swept her gaze across the assembled nobles, then fixed on Seraphine. A slow smile curved her lips, yet it carried no warmth. "My daughter," she intoned, voice echoing like distant thunder. "You have done well." Relief flooded Seraphine's heart, but Terran sensed something amiss. He tightened his grip on Seraphine's hand as Isolde surveyed the hall. The queen's pale fingers brushed the tear of Selene, extinguishing its glow in an instant. Darkness gathered at the edges of the room, and the candles flickered out. A chill wind blew through the chamber, snuffing torches along the walls. Whispers of discontent rose among the nobles. Isolde's smile faded. "Yet this alliance," she said, voice cold as ice, "was not made through royal decree." She turned to Terran, her crimson eyes narrowing. "A werewolf prince is no place at my side." Terran's heart thundered. He stepped forward, fur bristling with warning. "Your Majesty, we fought for your return. We honor your line." But Isolde shook her head, the shadows swirling at her heels. "You carry the blood of a monster," she declared, "and I will not allow him to stand where a true heir must reign." The nobles murmured their agreement, forming a ring around Seraphine and Terran. Seraphine's face paled. She looked to her mother, pleading in silence. Isolde raised her hand sharply. The assembled vampires lunged, daggers drawn, eyes burning with loyalty to the ancient queen. Terran's lupine instincts sprang to life. He roared, launching himself into the fray. Metal clashed, echoing through the vaulted hall. Seraphine stood beside him, her dagger flashing like lightning. Together, they fought back to back, each movement a dance of survival and unity. The nobles pressed their attack, but Terran's strength and Seraphine's speed proved unmatched. He knocked aside armored bodies with powerful swipes, while she dispatched assailants with precise strikes. Sparks flew as steel met enchanted claws. Despite their fury, the nobles began to falter, confusion replacing their zeal. Queen Isolde watched from the dais, arms folded. A single wave of her hand, and the torches blazed bright once more, illuminating the carnage. She stepped forward, regal and unyielding. "Enough," she said, voice carrying through the chaos. The nobles froze mid-attack and backed away. Seraphine lowered her dagger, breathing hard, bloodied but unbowed. Terran shifted back to human form, standing tall beside her. Queen Isolde descended the dais, her gaze fixed on Seraphine. "You challenge my authority," she said softly. "Yet you lack the strength to rule alone." Seraphine lifted her chin. "I do not stand alone," she replied. "I stand with him, my ally, my champion." She gestured to Terran. "We will lead together, if you allow it." Isolde's eyes flickered between mother and daughter, centuries of pride warring with love. Finally, she nodded. "Very well," she said. "Prove your union is more than blood and bite. Stand vigil in the Hall of Ancients until dawn. If you remain unbroken, my court will accept your reign." Seraphine and Terran exchanged a relieved glance. Without a word, they strode toward the Hall of Ancients. A vast chamber lined with statues of past vampire monarchs. The nobles parted before them, silence now filled with a cautious hope. In that solemn hall, mother and daughter, vampire and werewolf, would face their final test and shape the future of two worlds forever. Beneath the vaulted ceiling of the Hall of Ancients, Seraphine and Terran stood shoulder to shoulder. Moonlight filtered through high windows, casting long shadows across marbled floors. Statues of past vampire monarchs gazed down, their stone eyes unblinking. A hush filled the chamber, broken only by the soft drip of water echoing in the distance. Tonight, neither royalty nor legend could save them. They faced judgment by endurance. Seraphine drew a slow breath. She brushed her hand against Terran's arm, feeling the steady beat of his pulse. "Stay close," she whispered. "We must endure until dawn." Terran nodded, his amber eyes scanning the statues. Each carved figure represented triumph over darkness, or, in some cases, betrayal. Seraphine's jaw tightened. She recalled stories of monarchs who had shattered alliances, of blood spilled against kin. If she faltered, her line would be cursed. They moved deeper into the hall. The statues grew larger, more imposing, until only a narrow corridor remained. In its center, a single stone bench faced the largest statue, a regal vampire queen whose crown seemed to glow in the pale light. Seraphine and Terran seated themselves on the bench, shoulders touching. The silence pressed in like a living thing. Minutes passed, then hours. The air grew cold. Seraphine's breath formed mist before her lips. Terran sensed the chill, but also felt something else. Hungry shadows stirring around the bases of the statues. He shifted, muscles coiling beneath her gown. "Do you see that?" he murmured. Seraphine followed his gaze, faint tendrils of darkness creeping along the walls, seeking warmth. Holding the tear of Selene in her palm, Seraphine closed her eyes and began to hum an ancient lullaby, one her mother had sung in childhood. The relic's light flickered, illuminating runes carved into the statue's pedestal. The shadows recoiled, writhing as if in pain, and then retreated into hidden cracks. Terran exhaled in relief. "Your song holds power," he said softly. Seraphine opened her eyes. "It connects me to our ancestors," she explained. "Their strength flows through these stones." She placed the tear into a shallow carving at the bench's side. A gentle glow spread throughout the hall, warming the cold air and dissolving the last shadows. Together, they drew comfort from the relic's light. But as the first hint of dawn colored the sky beyond the windows, the ground trembled. Dust fell from the ceiling, and a deep rumble shook the statues to their bases. Seraphine and Terran rose to their feet, hands linked. The statue of the regal queen cracked along its crown, splitting into two pieces. From the fissure poured a silent wind, carrying voices, whispers of approval and warning. As the statue crumbled, a hidden door yawned open in its base, revealing a hidden chamber bathed in dawn's first rays. Within lay an intricately carved seal, glowing with the same pale light as the tear. Seraphine stepped forward, tears in her eyes. "This seal binds our realms," she breathed. "We must prove our unity by passing through it together." Terran placed his hand on hers. "Then let us walk through side by side," he said. Their joined hands touched the seal, and a warmth spread through their bodies. The door closed behind them, and the statues of the Hall of Ancients stood silent once more. When the hidden door opened on the other side, Seraphine and Terran emerged into the courtyard beyond the citadel gates. Dawn's golden light bathed the world in renewal. Noble vampires watched in awe, their expressions shifting from doubt to respect. Seraphine raised her hand, the tear of Selene glowing once more in her grasp. At her side, Terran stood tall, his wolf spirit and human heart united. In that moment, prophecy was fulfilled. Vampire and werewolf, bound by love and courage, stepped forward together to rule. Their reign would reshape two worlds, under the watchful eyes of ancestors, beneath the eternal promise of the dawn. Beneath the brightening sky, Terran and Seraphine stood in the courtyard of the Black Citadel, hailed by a hush that swept through assembled nobles. Morning light spilled over broken battlements, turning dew into scattered jewels. Seraphine lifted the tear of Selene, its pale glow now gentle as dawn. Around them, vampires and werewolves alike watched in awed silence, sensing that an age of conflict was ending. Seraphine spoke first, her voice clear and steady. "Today we honor both bloodlines," she declared. "No longer shall our peoples dwell in fear of one another." Terran nodded beside her, his human form glinting with morning sun. He added, "We pledge to protect this realm together." A wave of approval rippled through the crowd as ancient rivalries loosened in the warmth of their unity. Yet a low rumble interrupted the celebration. From beyond the northern wall, dark clouds curled inward, and the ground trembled. Terran stiffened, instincts urging him to readiness. Seraphine's eyes narrowed. "Malchior returns," she whispered. From the swirling storm emerged a line of shadowy figures, Malchior's exiled vampires, their bodies twisted by betrayal. Their leader, cloaked in black ice, stepped forward, fangs bared in a cruel grin. "You may have vanquished my mother," he hissed, voice crackling with malice, "but you will never unite these wretches under your hollow throne." Terran growled and shifted into his lupine form in one fluid motion. His fur bristled and muscles rippled. Seraphine drew her dagger, moonlight dancing on its blade. The nobles retreated to clear space, forming a ring around the courtyard. The air snapped with tension as two armies faced each other. The new alliance of vampire and werewolf on one side, Malchior's corrupted legion on the other. Without warning, Malchior unleashed a blast of black frost that glazed the courtyard's stones. Seraphine sprang forward, her dagger slicing through the icy wind, while Terran charged with a thunderous roar. Their movements were perfectly in sync, heaving crosses of strength and precision. Malchior spun, unleashing shards of ice and shadow. Seraphine weaved between them, her blade igniting each fragment into harmless mist with a touch of the tear's light. Terran's claws tore through the ice beasts that sprang from the ground as ancient magic met raw power. As the battle raged, the newly united nobles found courage in their leader's resolve. Vampire archers loosed arrows of silver light. Werewolf warriors howled in triumph as they flanked Malchior's minions. The once feared citadel courtyard became a crucible of change, forging bonds stronger than a curse. Each enemy that fell under the combined might of fang and fangless steel marked another step toward lasting peace. Finally, Terran pinned Malchior against a shattered pillar of onyx. Breathing hard, he growled, "This ends now." Seraphine approached, raising the tear of Selene high. A beam of pure light shot from the relic, enveloping Malchior. His screams echoed as the darkness within him was cleansed or banished. No one could tell which. When the light faded, only silence remained. Malchior lay motionless, his power broken. As cheers rose around them, Seraphine lowered the tear and turned to Terran, her smile radiant. "Together," she said softly. He offered her a proud nod, his golden eyes warm. At that moment, amidst the dawning peace, they knew their love and partnership had not only saved their people but reshaped their world forever. As the first rays of sunlight warmed the courtyard, Seraphine and Terran stood side by side, surveying the scene of triumph and renewal. Vampires and werewolves moved among the fallen stones, not as enemies but as allies. The air buzzed with tentative conversations. Voices once filled with fear now carried hope. Seraphine brushed a lock of the bony hair from her face and looked to Terran, whose golden eyes reflected the dawn's light. Together, they walked toward the shattered pillar where Malchior had fallen. Seraphine knelt, gathering a fragment of onyx so that it might be remade into a symbol of unity. Terran stood watch, his lupine senses attuned to the soft murmurs of their people. In that moment, the roar of battle faded into distant memory, replaced by the quiet promise of peace. A group of young vampires approached first, their faces lined with curiosity rather than suspicion. "Princess," one said, voice trembling with awe, "will you truly allow werewolves to live among us, free from old laws?" Seraphine rose, holding the tear of Selene in her palm. "Not only will they live among us," she replied, "but together we will rebuild our home. We share this realm equally." Her words hung in the air like a vow. At her side, Terran offered a nod. "Just as the moon guides the tides, we guide each other," he added. The young vampires exchanged glances, then bowed their heads in acceptance. From another corner, werewolf elders emerged, their gray muzzles wet with tears of relief. "You have restored our honor," their leader said, speaking for all. "We stand with you, Princess." Terran's chest swelled with pride and gratitude. Seraphine placed her hand on the elder's shoulder. Your strength saved my court, she said softly. Together, we will heal the scars of centuries. Around them, the courtyard transformed. Noble vampires offered their healing arts to wounded werewolves. Moon-blessed wolves lent their strength to rebuild crumbling walls. The tear of Selene shone between Seraphine and Terran as if alive, a beacon of unity and purpose. As repairs began, Seraphine led Terran to the highest tower. From its parapet, they looked out over Ardenvale, dark forests stretching to distant mountains, villages waking under rosy skies. Our journey has only just begun, Seraphine said, resting her head against his shoulder. Terran wrapped an arm around her waist. Then we will face whatever comes together. Below them, the combined banners of wolf and bat fluttered in a gentle breeze. Children, half vampire, half werewolf, chased each other across the courtyard, laughter blending with birdsong. Seraphine smiled. They will know a different world, she said. Terran grinned, revealing a hint of sharpened teeth. A world shaped by our love and courage. In that silent moment, as morning light bathed the citadel, Seraphine and Terran raised their hands in unison. The tear pulsed brightly, and a wave of warmth swept across Ardenvale. From ruined walls to healed hearts, hope spread like wildfire. Two leaders, once outcasts, now stood as one, forging a legacy that would echo through ages. And as long as the moon and sun shared the sky, their story would be remembered. The tale of a werewolf outsider and a vampire princess who saved each other and a world in need of light.